keeping in mind we don't have a data center, even our ERP, we have hosted a third party. So process we've been going through our business transformation objectives, which lead to best of breed business technology architecture, which to me is absolutely key. And then that may incorporate things like hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, et cetera. And then that leads to a technology strategy and vision. And so where we've been on that is by mapping that out, the key around the skill gap and people is we're overlaying that with looking at what the future state IT org design needs to be in terms of what the org model should be, what the org model type should be, the org structure, the roles, the skills, what should be strategically outsourced and augmented. And then we're laying out a transformation plan of talent accordingly to match with our 5-year strategy. So to me, we're taking a macro look and saying, based on where we've come out of our cloud strategy and where we are today in our 5-year approach going forward, this is the approach we're taking to address talent and skill. And while we're doing this, we are working with our front lines on what are those big rocks out there that our branches are dealing with in terms of manual processes that if we could automate today, it will make their lives a lot easier and the customer experience better. But from a macro level, what I posted in the chat is what we're doing.
I think I have 2 key insights that I would provide. One is don't just rush into automation, take a step back and look at the process. Often what we found is people are rushing into automation and it's the same teams that do the manual work that are trying to do the automation, and they overlook some of the things that they just take for granted. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is incorporate some diversity and inclusion and adjust for the talent shortage. So if our team looks a certain way or acts a certain way, we try to hire somebody who has a different perspective, come in, document the entire process flow, even giving them a shadowing opportunity from different areas to help grow them. And then we automate. We find there's a lot of efficiencies in processes, and then we find pitfalls we can avoid. The second thing that we try and do is slightly outside of the area of automation, but we're leveraging our data. So we look at our data, we draw insights, and then we try to build models, leverage our data scientists to building those models. I'll give you a really quick example. Everybody has that manager attestation or the dreaded manager access review of reviewing your access. We look at all of that access. We have to hire thousands of people to try and support all of those reviews. And so what we're doing is we're looking at bundles of access, looking at how we can avoid attesting to that and just say automatically, because of your role, you get this access. That reduces the number of people to support it and the time you take to do it. So leveraging our data and looking at that to draw insights.
The one thing I think we need to think about as leaders in technology is where do we want our human interactions to be, and to maintain and foster that as well. Because if we push automation and we disconnect that human interaction, that could have massive ramifications on your customer satisfaction, on the service that we all provide. So I think that's top of mind for me. We're not automating everywhere. Where we have those touch points with the customers, we're going to keep those in place, because that is where we get our work. That's where we get immediate feedback. That's how we grow along with the business versus being an IT organization that is put to the side. A couple other things here around automation. It's just like those manual processes that we talked about. It's great to automate everywhere, but how are you going to govern, maintain, and operate longer term? Think 5-10 years down the road when everything is automated and everyone has done their little automation project. Whoa, how are we going to unravel that one day when we need to? How are we going to grow one day or evolve our business? Because now it's not talking to somebody. It's maybe going into code. It's maybe going into a tool. These are things that I think we should think about on the go forward. We're just starting down this path. And the third piece is more around the business. I think every industry is going through some digital transformation. We're at different levels of maturity there. We talk about the talent shortage all the time. And when we are saying we're going to automate because we don't have enough people, that's not very inspiring, right? We should be thinking about how are we using technology to paint a better picture of tomorrow that, everybody wants to be a part of. So not only is it a opportunity to, number one, reduce expenses, but how can we look above the line? How do we utilize digital transformation, automation activities to think about how do we generate more revenue? How do we capture more market share? Those are things I think we should start thinking about as technology professionals being partnered with the organization.
Business process management is absolutely critical. I think Melissa said it really well. We've got to take that step back at times and really kind of have a look at everything in front of us. And also, a lot of the folks that end up doing this manual work, they are the ones also trying to work towards automation along that journey, particularly with the technology group. So how do we get them cycles back to be in that partnership with us? So, really try to understand the current state, document, map it out. Where can we eliminate some waste with some non-technology optimization even, and then build towards that future state and find those opportunities to automate. But I like what Marvin also said on his point was, where do we also need to keep that human focus? They're all great things. I think the one thing I'll add, though, is as we build towards that future state, as we know it's a transformation, it's a journey, but there's, I think, an interim step sometimes we can take with automation. And we're really looking at that here at HSB is, where can technology like RPA or robotic process automation help on top of these manual processes? So as you start to dive into these processes, you uncover a lot of things that maybe you didn't realize, and you get a lot of great data points that you can speak to. And potentially RPA can automate a lot of these things in the interim while you kind of move to that future state. So, we've seen some examples here of, manual key and entry based off legacy technologies. Of course, we want to modernize these technologies, but RPA can get cycles back, in some cases at a tremendous level while we work towards that future state.
We're by no means, advanced in this space, but we are very aware of the potential and the benefits that it could provide our organization. We approached it a little differently. I mean, in the sense of we didn't put a lot of funding into it. We have a co-op program. Creates great value for us. It creates great value for our students as well. And geez, there are just some really, really smart students out there. We actually opened up a project for them. So we have projects every quarter that when the students join us, we set up a bunch of value-added projects inside of our organization that aren't necessarily business impacting to help them learn about our business, work with some technologies, and then have a meaningful experience with us. So one of the things that we did do is looked at AI for our service desk. And why that was an easy one for us is because we do get a large number of incidents in the sense of coming in incidents that need to be categorized and then pushed out to the respective teams for resolution. So when the teams came in to do this, they used OpenAI and they used models that were readily available online. And they did some analysis and research and went through all of this. And surprisingly, within 3 months, a group of 4 students was able to get the same results that our manual service desk person did to triage the tickets and move it to the respective parties through an AI. And this, again, actually the results were better than what the service desk did based on historical data. But with all of that in mind, I think it doesn't have to be a complicated thing. You should just look at where you think the value is and just get a start at it, because it is very interesting. And we learned a lot from the students as well.
Looking into prioritization, where I can get the bigger buck for my saving, basically. Looking into what is the bread and butter. And some pun intended, what is our chicken and gravy? As a result, we are mostly looking into the areas that the automation can bring a lot of benefit at the lowest cost. Looking into, for instance, on our menu management is a very complex and very manually cumbersome activity and tasks. As a result, that's where we are going to put our focus to have an AI engine to come and help instead of laborious time to use the AI tool to help us with that. The price management. Those are the areas that mostly we will be looking into. Plus the endpoint management. There is no need to look into, a couple of thousand endpoints that we are managing in a daily basis to be manually looked or without the use of the AI. These specific area, the menu management, price management, and endpoint managements are the area that we are using the Internet of Things.
Think of pizza. We have over 500 stores that we're managing. Think of POS, think of the call center, think of 3 digital channels, the apps and the website. So every time we generate a menu, we're tooling in the multiples of 5 stores. So it would take us probably about 7 hours just to generate a menu the day before and another few hours to deploy it and early morning. And when we do deploy menu, it has to be done before 9 a.m. because stores open at 10. We use Python and with our internal developers. All the development is done internally. All of our application is custom, tailor-based for Pizza. And we have used Python to automate our menu building process. We use it to do dashboard building, where a user like our QA could manage or input data into our menu system description. So these are the things that we're continuing to automate, and it's actually saving us close to a day and a half per week just for menu generation. Think of UAT environment, think of production environment. And then we have our e-commerce platform, which is our bread and butter. Imagine we're on GCP. If GCP region 1 goes down, we're pretty much, our hands are tied. We're just waiting for Google to bring up their service. And it's never where the whole region is done, is that specific service is done. So we work with a partner for 6 months to automate a secondary region. And we could make it automatic, but we decided not to make it automatic. We just create a script in where we pretty much press a button, and within 30 seconds, we can switch to our backup region. Some of the things that we're doing, we're adding checks and balances, and we're getting logs, we're getting emails. And if there's a process that failed in between, we're able to detect that and correct it within time before deployment is completed. So by the end of 2022, we're expecting to do a full automation of all our day-to-day process that we're doing, and hoping we can spend about 80% of our time more on projects.
You can look from an AI ops perspective, AI or ML, at looking at some of the more simplistic administrative tasks as a starting point. And that can add a significant amount of value to an organization. But I think that as this evolves, there's a lot of benefit that can come with it. And with Hitachi, the organization as a whole, it is very invested in terms of looking at this. And it's whether it's smart industry, smart cities, it is something that we're looking to how AI and ML can contribute to society as a whole. The complexity of it can be very daunting at times, but when you look at some of the things that we've accomplished, whether it's around smart transportation, the automation of that, I touched on smart cities already, whether it's medical, even, smart data centers, that touches all of us today already in the cloud providers in terms of, how they're leveraging that. So it's really interesting. I really appreciate a lot of the feedback that we've got here. I think it's something that's going to continue to contribute. There can be complexity with it, but it's something that needs to be, continue to investigate, and it's already adding value.